nurses before, but we have not had a chance to talk to veterans. So this is very special for us. And we want to say, welcome home. Because, and I think we all want to find out a little bit about who's in the room, and we're wondering if the people over here and over here will be able to see the screen okay. So I don't know if people will need to shift around a little bit or not.
Okay. Yeah. So how many are Army? Yay! Okay. And how many are Navy? Very good, very good. Marines? Oh, yes. Air Force? Oh, there they are. Okay, good. Very good. Coast Guard?
Yeah, I don't know, Coast Guard? Do we have Coast Guard? Okay, not here.
Not here today. Okay. So we really appreciate the fact that there's a smattering of everybody here. And you want to know, are there?
So we wanted to know, because we were nurses, how many people here have a Purple Heart? Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and then right here. Okay, yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you. And how many, though, of you that then have a Purple Heart might have been on a hospital or a land army facility for care? Great. Okay. Anybody on a ship? Over the repose, the sanctuary. Okay. And then we wouldn't get our patients excepting for the dust-offs.
Yes.
So who are the dust-offs?
Who's the helicopter pilots?
Helicopter pilots and crew.
Medics, yeah, and crew, medics. There we go, yeah.
Corpsmen. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
You want to start?
Okay. Yeah. So Karren and I go back a little ways to graduate school, and that's how we are connected today. And we had done a program that we thought was really like state of the art. You know, we had a reel-to-reel 8-track recorder, a clicker, and slides. And we presented it to the nursing students at Mercy Hospital, and we just thought it was so cool. But one of the things that I was impressed with was we had music, and one of the music things was from Moody Blues. And there's a line in one of their stories, "He ain't heavy, he's my brother." And Karren had the slide of the soldier carrying his wounded comrade. And that just has always stuck with me. I got to the sanctuary. Oh, gotta get my little gizmo here. Yeah. Thank you. I got to the sanctuary in March of 1968. I had put on a previous year's fitness report that, yes, I would be willing to go to Vietnam. So again, everybody's a volunteer over there. This was a 450-bed hospital ship, and we had specialists. We had internal medicine, we had surgery, general surgery, orthopedic surgery, urology, ophthalmology, dental. Dental had like 10 specialized techs among the corpsmen. And I can't think of other neurosurgeon, anesthesiologist. And the one anesthesiologist was supported by 2 nurse anesthetists for the 3 ORs that we had. So $20 million had been spent on the USS Repose and $20 million on the USS Sanctuary to get them ready for Vietnam as hospital ships. These were oil tankers originally, and they were made into the 450-bed hospital ships. At one time, Sanctuary, when I was there, had 610 patients on board because of a malaria outbreak, and we had patients sleeping on the decks.
Yankee Station, or where were you?
Oh, thank you. So behind Karren here, there's a Vietnam map, and I think people are pretty familiar with it, but the DMZ, I don't know if it'll show on here, the DMZ is here, Da Nang is here, and Chu is here. And we would go from Chu up to the DMZ and back. Offshore, maybe about 3 miles or so. Of course, we did the Geneva Convention, so we were white with the red crosses, and we had our lights at night. So when we went with the task force, you don't think the Viet Cong didn't know where we were. But we were very young, and we just didn't really think we were going to ever be attacked or anything. But the ship knew that that was a possibility. And when we would be anchored in Da Nang Harbor, if someone started swimming toward the ship, they pulled anchor and we moved out a little bit. But some people came ashore. Some people came ashore in boats like this, and you have to get the boat along here because there's a ladder to go up. And that's how I came ashore, because I did what was unforgivable in the Navy. I missed the sailing of the ship. So my flight from Travis to Da Nang was delayed 24 hours, and got into Da Nang, and they said, oh, the ship sailed this morning for the Philippines. It went in every 90 days for maintenance. And I had visited some friends in San Diego before I came out. And one of the husbands of one of my friends was an officer, and his office was on Coronado Island. And so Pete Black had taken me over to show me his facility there. And I was standing kind of looking lost, and a chief came up to me and said, didn't I see you 2 or 3 days ago in Dr. Black's office? And I said, well, yes. He said, well, let me take you out to the hospital at Da Nang. They'll know what you should do. Well, the chief nurse there was thrilled because the ship would be gone for 10 days. She could get help for 10 days. So she said, well, you can just stay here until the ship comes back. I went to the O Club that night, and a surgeon from Chelsea Naval, where I had previously been stationed, said, oh no, you should get a helo from Quang Tri and go up to Phu and get a flight to Clark, and then get a flight down from Clark to Subic and meet the ship, which is what I should have done. But Tet had just happened, and I was a little scared to do all that. So I was very comfortable just stay at the hospital and work in the ICU. And it was actually very beneficial to me because it really got me ready for the ship. We had people 96 hours after injury at Chelsea, but those would be major orthopedic cases. So this was a chance to work with other kinds of battle injuries. We had support on the ship for spiritual services. And so we had a Catholic priest, and we had a Protestant minister that conducted regular services and did a lot of counseling for the people that were there. We also had some Red Cross people. Most of our patients did not come by boat, but we did get some people by boat. And here's a slip of one. But most of our patients came by helicopter. So both the Repose and the Sanctuary had the helicopter landing on the fantail. So here's a Chinook coming in. A Chinook could bring us 12 patients. A Huey could bring us 5. So, and these are corpsmen. There were 225 corpsmen on the ship, 31 nurses. So who's doing most of the nursing care? Always in the Navy anyway. The corpsmen, and I think in the Army, the medics are doing most of it. And as a nurse, you learn a lot from the corpsmen that are experienced. So 225 corpsmen, but only 205 ship's crew. But if we didn't work 12-hour shifts in the hospital, the corpsmen had to go and work another 4 hours in the laundry to help the crew, because the crew was a little bit short because of the size of the hospital. This is just someone loading into a helicopter. There's just, you have to find fun and a little bit of games in a hard situation where you can. So this happened to be Easter, and the Easter Bunny was visiting. But my point here is the closeness of the racks. So this was on the medical unit, and the racks were 3 high. So down here somewhere would have been the 3rd rack. And so this is showing one of the nurses working with another
My God, you were in white.
corpsman on changing a dressing. And you want you to see that you can see at the top of Bobby's cap, you can see the mattress here. So it wasn't a lot of space. If you were really sick, you were in the middle. If you were getting a little bit better, you got down below, you could crawl in. And if you were getting pretty good, then you got to go on the third one. We wore white uniforms, laundered and pressed in the laundry at the ship. And we wore our cap because that was where our rank was. So Bobby was a lieutenant commander. You can see the 2.5 stripes. ICU was pretty crowded, and there were just you just had poles and things everywhere, and trying to hang IVs from just support poles and so on. We had a lot of visitors onto the ship. So this was Lieutenant General Cushman. He was giving a Purple Heart. And then here's some more of the ICU. It's just the ship was crowded. There wasn't a lot of room. Our 3-story, 3-rack high medical unit was about 100 beds, and we had 10 beds that were like a medical ICU next to that in a separate room where they were just single beds. And that was where I did see a couple of people die from malaria, which is a very sad thing to have happen. We had a lot of showers off of the medical unit because of the malaria. And we had to desalinate all our own water. So the ship's company was really distressed when we would put these guys in the shower and just let it run. But we had to cool them down. We had 1 cooling blanket on the ship. This is, 1960s. And things were different in terms of technology and availability of different things. And so when we explained to them that we had to do this because we didn't want their brains to fry and get to 107 degrees, they were 105, 6, we just had to put them in the shower. So then they understood. But it put a big burden on the ship getting that water desalinated. And there's General Westmoreland visiting a patient. And people did get off the ship. So here's people that are getting better, and I don't know if they're going to go back to duty or what. Probably not, because they're in patient blue uniforms, pajamas. But they're lined up on the deck, ready to go by helicopter. We went into Subic, as I mentioned earlier, every 90 days for repairs. Though right after I left the ship, they were supposed to go to Subic, and they didn't. And they were on this line 180 days that time. And, that's a time, as nurses and some of the ship's officers, they were 25 officers for the ship, we got to go ashore sometimes. But the crew, those 225 medics, corpsmen, and the 205 ship's crew, they didn't get to go most of the time. So they were on the, that was a big deal to be on there for 180 days. One of the people on the ship, one of the ship's officers, was Lieutenant Hodge. He was in charge of the mess decks with the Philippine crew that we had that cooked, and boy, were they good cooks. He was a single guy, but he just loved little kids. And we had anyone that the ship brought to us, that the helicopters brought. So we had civilians, not men, but women and children. So we had a women and children's unit specifically for them. And we sometimes had Viet Cong, Koreans, Chinese, French, Australians, New Zealand, and of course all of our Marines and Army and Air Force. But we had anybody the ship brought to us, the helicopters brought to us. I mentioned how things crowded. This is a shot from the engine room. And I should mention all these photos come out of the books that I have on display over here, the cruise log, because I didn't have pictures of the interiors of the ship and patients and so on. So I figured it's safe to be able to reproduce what's in a published book. Fun, I mentioned a little bit earlier. So this is a bunch of nurses, and I'm here doing, I don't know, some goofy entertainment thing. There was a closed circuit television channel on the ship, and we took all turns as the nurses dressing up, getting our hair done, putting on makeup, and being the weather lady for every day for the crew and for the patients. Sometimes we got into Da Nang, so these are some shots of there had been beautiful buildings there, and then a lot of it was pretty war-torn, and Da Nang was very red, dusty. Karren looked at this slide before, and she said, well, you know, we didn't really use these Army ambulances, excepting back in Korea, but they were there lined up, and I always thought that was kind of an interesting picture. But when Karren and I got ready to do this like a year ago at a conference, she sent me some information from the Army, and it talked about the difference between the motorized ambulances and the helicopter. And the helicopters reduced 2 to 2.5 hours the time that it took from someone from injury to get some medical care.
Yeah.
So from 4.5 hours down to 2 hours is pretty